Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of MOE's Facebook Live session, Insights into a World Beyond School. Today's session is also part of MOE's biannual signature event, Teachers Conference ExcelFest, themed Readying Our Students for the Future. I'm Ray, and I'll be your host for tonight. As we are all aware, technology is evolving at lightning speeds. From AI, VR, robotics, digital communication, many companies are undergoing digital transformation as technology shapes how we live, how we learn, and how we work. There are jobs today that did not even exist a decade ago, and there are jobs 5 years later that may not exist today. For our children, this means that they need to be ready to upskill, to gain new skills to navigate the future. Through today's session, we hope to equip parents with knowledge about the different areas of work and study in tech-related fields so that you can actively support your children's strengths and interests. In recent articles, we hear about more young people being drawn to tech-related roles and are actively looking for opportunities to flex those skills in data, automation, and AI. As such, in today's session, we will be chatting about work and study in such a tech-driven age. This session will be largely shaped by the questions asked by you, so we encourage you to actively ask your questions by typing them down in the comment section below. Also, feel free to share your own experiences and tips with the fellow viewers. But do take note, only ask questions related to today's topic, and also be respectful in asking those questions. We want to hear from you, so please share those questions that you have, and also share these two things in the comment section below. First of all, how old are your children? And secondly, what is one way your children has surprised you with his or her ability to learn with technology? As our children prepare to enter a world of work in which technology is rapidly evolving, a common concern that you may have is, are human skills more or less important than tech skills and knowledge? Let us know what you think through the first poll on the screen. Well, as you respond to the poll, let's also turn to our panel for tonight. We have Mr. Wilfrid from Jardine, Carriage, Cycle and Carriage Singapore, and Miss Cherie from Secur Solutions Group. And I'm Ray, founder of Carriage and also Year 1 student at the Singapore Management University. Yes. Well, before we start, could I invite the both of you to share a little bit more about what kind of work do you do? What does a daily day in your work look like for you, and what is the role of tech in that?
Hi, my name is Cherie. I have 3 sons. Quentin is 15, Evan is 13, my youngest Oliver is 8. In my work, I work in a fintech. I do a lot of this kind of like the ops work, and I look at kind of strategic partnerships that we can have. But I also look at how the technology intersects with the human. So I kind of advise clients on what the human issues are, and do we really need a tech solution for that, and what might that look like. So I do the facilitation part of the technology side.
Yeah, and I'm Wilfrid. My wife Lydia and I have 2 children. Colette's 11 and Oliver's 9. I look after the Jardine's motor interests in the region. I manage Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Myanmar. So insofar as owning a car is concerned in these areas, we look after the customer's ownership journey, and in that journey, there's lots of opportunities for tech.
You picked a really good name for your son. I approve.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lastly, my name is Ray. I'm the host for today and also actually one of the panelists. So I'm here to share my youth perspective on some of these matters that you may be concerned about. And some background on me, I'm actually a Year 1 student at the SMU, and I'm also studying something along the lines of AI and psychology. And in my other free time, I run this platform called Carriage, where we help about 2,000 students get access to about 100 plus opportunities, be it volunteering or going for mentorship programs, workshops, or competitions on a weekly basis. Well, so I think there's some questions on the platform, and many of you have, I think children aged between 14 to 20 years old and have shared interesting ways that your children are interacting with technology. Well, keep those questions and comments coming, and we will get to those responses later. First of all, we can warm up with this session with a quick quiz. We like to call this the tech buzz. So I'll read a statement and you will have to answer agree or disagree on these cards, and then give a quick, short explanation for why you think that's the case.
Okay,
We have
got it.
3 statements for tonight.
Okay.
The first statement is, to be successful in the tech industry, you must first excel at math. Do you agree or disagree? 1, 2, 3. Oh, wow, that was fast.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Okay.
I think it's not about excelling in math, but numeracy is extremely important, whether it's about understanding how to write code or understanding the language of the boardroom or a business, accounting, finance, or return on investments. I think numeracy is important. You don't have to be a whiz kid in math, but certainly it's one of the building blocks in enabling your education and continued journey in that space. Yeah.
I mean, I will add to that. That doesn't mean you're not good at math. You're going to be really bad at technology either. I mean, it's not a direct link all the time. So, okay.
Brilliant. Let's go on to the second question,
Okay.
which is, I can make much more money working in a tech-focused field. Do you agree or disagree? Wow. Okay.
Hey, just to be clear, we didn't buck up, okay?
Yeah.
Can we make more money working in a tech-focused field? I mean, I will put it out there that you can definitely make good money in the tech field. I mean, invariably, if you look at some of the biggest companies in the world today, at least the popular ones anyway, that's in the news, tech makes good money. But I also do feel that you can make good money in other fields that may not be tech-heavy laden, that may not be tech-focused, because I think there is still a value to human skills, connecting people, that is not really a main tech focus.
Yeah, I think being the best at what you do and what you love is going to bring you further and farther in life. And it's not just about tech. So many other facets of life and business that can be very good for everyone as well.
Yeah.
I see. So it's not just about having tech skills, it's also about what value do you bring to the company and firm. All right, we move on to our last statement. Children should start learning about coding and robotics from a young age so that they will not lose out on job opportunities in the future. Do you agree or disagree?
Coding and
3,
robotics.
2, 1.
Let's get a cop out. Okay, you go first.
I think being technically skilled in one area like robotics or coding, etc., is great as a skill. But oftentimes in organizations, we find that the deployment of technology requires many other skills as well, beyond just the technical capabilities. Being able to bring people together, really understanding what people go through, what it means for people in deploying the technology, how it can impact customers. These things are important as well, and these require a whole different set of characteristics and values beyond just the skills of coding and robotics. You know?
So I said I kind of agree and disagree. That's why it's kind of flat. It's a very cop-out answer, but hear me out, okay? So I do feel that children should learn coding and robotics. I think in the world that they live in Gen Alpha's life, they have to be very familiar and very comfortable with that. But also if you look at what coding and robotics teaches you are things like computational thinking, logic, looking at problem statements. These are really valuable skills. I mean, I can understand why China wants to make AI part of the school syllabus for primary schools. So I think in that sense, I agree that they should start learning from a young age. However, I disagree with the back part. I don't think it is because of any job opportunities in the future. I think of some of the jobs that exist today. I mean, influencer didn't exist when we were growing up, and it's a thing today. I'm convinced that by the time, in 5 years' time or 10 years' time when my children are up, there will be so many jobs that do not exist today. So I'm not keen to make them learn something just to do like a robotics, quote unquote robotics and coding job. But I would do that for the skill set, the thinking that it gives them, the kind of training it gives them, so that they can be more future ready in terms of the breadth of exposure, more than the exact skills themselves.
Yeah, I like what you said. So it's not just about focusing on what is that job opportunity you want to target for, but actually it's also about helping the children develop that interest, that curiosity in the first place. Personally for me, I was actually in robotics when I was young, so I actually fulfilled the first criteria of that first question. And I did learn coding as well, but I didn't do that because I knew that was a job. I was pretty good at robotics actually. I just don't want to impose, but it was because of interest. It was genuinely because of interest. I would stay back after school and then don't eat lunch and do robotics. Okay, that's not a good thing to say, but yeah, that's because of interest. Yeah, and I think as a youth, I do recommend that as well.
So did you stay, like when you said you were robotics trained, did you stay like robotics all the way and then like therefore you ended up in this AI, or was it like a phase in your life and then you kind of
It was a
took sidetracks?
phase. It was a phase. So actually, I quit robotics when I was in secondary school. I jumped ships. I went to cross country, complete 360. You know, actually 180. 180. So yeah, so that was me. But the thing is, the things I've learned through robotics, the idea that if I just need to pull together resources to make something, and if I wanted to build a boxing robot, I could just get my friends, pull them along. Let's go and find the parts. We'll go under the closets and like scrape out all the different parts that people left behind that didn't clean up, and then we will build those robots together. And that kind of scrappiness, it transfers. It's not just
what
about
you're
robotics.
saying is clearly the human skill has helped him. Oh, cool.
Okay, yeah, so that's the first part of it's a quick introduction, a quick icebreaker for today's segment. But I see that there's a lot of questions that you guys are actually asking. So we'll just quickly conclude this segment. And what we have shared just now may have broadened your definition of success, be it for yourself or be it for your kids. So it's not just about learning what tech is, but also understanding the human skills that come with it. So so some of viewers are sharing that their children are also very adept at tech, like Zaida, who says that her child learned to humanize output from AI to avoid detection. Okay. Alright, that is some interesting stuff. I do that actually in school. Well, before we transit to the next segment, let's look at the results of our first online poll. We posed the following question to our viewers. How important are human skills compared to tech knowledge and skills? It could be more important, less important, or just as important. Well, let's look at the results. We see that 62% of you feel that human skills are just as important as tech skills and knowledge. Well, Wilfrid, you're looking at me. You must have something you want to say about this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you can't think about technology for technology's sake in any organization. Oftentimes we work in an organization where there's 5 generations, from grandfathers all the way to young graduates working in the same organization. So skills like bringing people together and having humility to speak to these multiple layers of people is important, and that's a value that's what I hire for. Secondly, being curious in the ability to actually derive insights from varied data points, that's also very important. Being able to communicate with empathy so that people understand how technology can resolve issues and make life a little bit easier is also important. And also resilience. You're never ever going to get the most elegant resolution of any situation at the first get-go. But being able to bounce back, pick yourself up again and again, that's also very important. So yes, I think the human-centric skills will carry you much further actually than just the core technical skills of technology alone.
How do you balance then, right? I mean, in our company, we screen for the tech skills first, and then I interview for all the human skills. What is your take? How do you do that? How do you do it in Jardine? Is it the tech people just do tech skills, and then does everybody else get hired for non-tech things? Or how do you balance
I guess when you hire for different disciplines, of course, there are going to be like different attributes that you're looking for. But I also hire people in an internal consulting arm that I set up.
Yeah.
And these people, I hire them for skills such as humility, curiosity. Of course, academic excellence is important, but more importantly, being able to converse well with multiplicity of different people and issues, and I think that's very important.
I will also say that, I mean, when we've had to let people go, a lot of times it's because these very great tech brains can't do the human side of things. It's usually they can't communicate properly, or perhaps when they meet clients, they're just not really good at being empathetic or kind or kind of nuanced in how they are. So I'm quite glad actually that 62% of the viewers anyway think that it's more important for the human side of things.
Yeah, most of the time we work in teams. We work in big organizations where there are groups of people. So yeah, of course you hire for perceived aptitude,
yes,
but
for sure.
you get rid of people for bad attitude or inability to collaborate,
Thanks. Well, I think from my point of view, I do agree with Sigmund actually that that human skills are just as important or even more important than tech skills. Like personally for me, I don't have much experience in the workforce yet, but I do run a startup, and we didn't have the tech skills when we started it. We had a problem that we wanted to solve, which was that a lot of our friends didn't know what they were interested in, and because of that, they can't make decisions on where else to go for school, what kind of courses you should take. And we decided that, we need to create a platform where we can give people opportunities to explore, to try different things out. And I didn't know how to make websites. Our team didn't know how to make websites. We didn't know where these opportunities were coming from. We didn't know how to design, but we learned those skills on the job. And I think that is also something that the two of you would have experienced many, many times.
I do think your story about how you managed and you got to Cordy is kind of a nice fleshing out of what the people have said, right? I mean, you invested in agency, that's why you felt like that was important. You invested in collaboration, that's why you and your friends got together. You invested in how do we be resourceful and scraping things from under the cupboard. It's kind of cool. But also I think you had a natural curiosity, which I'm quite sure you're at home, in school, that's all these very human things. And then you kind of felt like, in order to do this, I'm going to find this tech solution. And so you just want to learn the tech later on. And I think it kind of reminds us that tech keeps changing. If you kind of invest in just the tech without the human skills, it's going to be a bit imbalanced. Plus the human skills, you cannot download. It's not like Matrix, you put in a software and then you suddenly become a kind person or a person with a worldview. Human skills take such a long time to build. And I think as parents anyway, I think that's the one thing that we can do, because we have them every day from they are young and we can slowly build that. It's really playing the long game. But I'm glad that we feel like it's important. So hopefully we can make sure that we don't lose track of that, side of that. Yeah.
So repertoire of skills, not just like tech focus, but also human skills, right? Okay, on that note, let's go on to some of the live questions from our viewers. Okay, we have a question for Cherie and Wilfrid. What are some impactful advances in technology that you have seen in your field of work? And how has tech changed the way you work and led your teams?
Okay. For me, I think we were really glad that we got a lot of our digital transformation done before COVID. And then COVID really accelerated everyone's kind of have to do it. So definitely collaborative tools are a big thing. I see that even in the way my son's in school too, they have a lot of collaboration. So I would say, being able to collaborate was a big thing. But that for me only heightened the human skillness of things in that sense. But what I've also found in terms of how I've interacted with my clients is a lot of them are ready at this point. Maybe about 5-10 years ago, they were ready to throw a tech solution at things. Now they want to take time, understand the human stories, understand the humanness of the problem or gap before they throw a tech solution at it. So I do see, much as there's big tech advances, and it's always nice to have, right, in terms of be able to use this platform and that platform, but there is also a real clinging to the basics, which is the humanness of things. And I like that. I feel very heartened that we're not just throwing a tech thing at businesses anymore.
Yeah. I have to agree that. I'll give you a very basic example of a call center. How many of us have actually called into a bank, a hotel, or a shopping center, or anything to seek for help, right?
Yes.
And you're faced with a AI chatbot, right?
Yeah, man, pick up the phone.
Yeah, pick up the phone. I just want to get the human, right?
Yes.
But you're faced with a chatbot that asks you, number one, hi, I'm Janice or Jake or whatever. Number one for this, number two for that. And because they have a name, they think they have a personality. They ask you, did I resolve your issue or problem? No, you just wanted to get the human. So if organizations do tech for tech's sake, the immediate resolution for a call center would be a chatbot, a chatbot. But if you deploy that differently by actually arming the call agent with the large language model to be able to consume all that data and give very nuanced, relevant information to the customer, that would have been much more impactful than having the customer interface with the chatbot in the first place. So I think the application of the technology becomes very important. You can see it everywhere. Some people do it more elegantly and others don't. But I think there's always room to try, retry, test, calibrate again and again. Yeah.
How do you then manage your board, right? For a lot of people, a lot of companies are like, we want a new fancy tech solution, we want to put AI in. And you're kind of going, well, not that you're going the other way, but you're kind of saying, guys, we have to just not throw AI at it. How do you manage the stakeholders and shareholders' demand for, I don't know, something fancy, for example, or a tech fancy?
Right. I mean, I think it starts with honest conversations, but not that my board does this,
Yeah, fair
but
enough.
many boards I've heard actually manage through reading Financial Times and Business Times. This company is doing AI, doing the digital of things over there, so why aren't you doing anything about it? But the conversation about, for example, my industry, the car ownership journey, is a very high-touch industry. Singapore has the world's most expensive cars. Would you think that Singaporeans would actually just go online and click and buy through a car that's $250,000? I think there's still some reason for people to go in, want to see the car, touch the car, feel the car, and more importantly, speak to the human that's going to be there when something happens.
Yeah.
So you got to feel, touch the leather, smell it.
Definitely. So I'm hearing about it's about intention also.
Yes.
So it's about intention of application of where this technology goes. Is it solving a specific problem for a specific person? And if so, is it the right fit for that person, that problem? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that, let's move on to the next question. Okay, we have a question and it's from Megalai and Jenny. So this question is for Wilfrid and Cherie as well. What kind of skills do you think would be relevant 10 to 15 years down the road? And what kind of jobs would there be for the Generation Alpha?
I'm starting to squirm. Because when I was growing up, engineering
Was a thing?
was
that's
fashionable. It was fashionable because there was
It's good money, it's
wafer
steady.
fabrication plants in Singapore, so people were in the semiconductor industry. Seagate was here, those kind of big companies. But many of my friends who studied engineering graduated and did not land an engineering job. They found different fields of work. So I think it's not, we're not qualified as fortune tellers. So we can't tell you what's going to be fashionable in a couple of years' time. But the starting point is always some sort of technical discipline, whether it's AI or whether it's marketing or still some sort of core competence that then opens a door for you to have an opportunity within an organization. But if you want to go really far, comes back to those human-centric skills that we talked about earlier on, because you're not just an individual contributor all the time. You have to work with teams of people. So, but I think technology is really gonna evolve really quickly, and having the fundamental understanding of how things work now.
True.
Even with Gen AI, it's not about understanding the large language model behind, but asking it the
Better
right questions in the right way will get you the response that you want.
I was lucky enough to be part of a futures kind of seminar space, and that one of the guys was presenting of like the future of work and what they expect and what the best leaders of the world today, what they have. And he said two things which I really took to heart. One is curiosity about the world. So I think like what you had, a curiosity of like how things work, how things can be used, how things can be connected together. So curiosity about the world. But he said the second thing was curiosity about the self. So I practice reflective practices, but as a facilitator. But I was really glad to hear that, because he said one of the things that made leaders kind of stand out, right, is they were also very self-aware and they worked on themselves. And it's not just curiosity about the outside world, but curious about themselves. So I think that kind of skill is useful. I mean, I think if you ask a lot of people journaling, why? Because it's reflective practices. I mean, you look at, I'm sure you do it like too. You think about what you've done. And it's not just the action, not the after action review kind of way. It's really thinking about your own personal growth. And I think that will be, a really critical part. In terms of what kind of job will there be for Gen Alpha, I think it could be anything. I like to believe that the core of what will make somebody successful, I think that's kind of the underlying thing, is still, do they have empathy? Because that will tell me whether they can, a tech solution for a human, they would understand that. Are they able to grow? So self-reflection, curiosity about the world, those are two things. I really hope that they will still be compassionate and be kind. I think in many businesses, if we look at how the young people are, they look at purpose, they look at your impact in the world, they look at the impact of what the company is doing. I'm quite a glass half full person, so I think being kind, being intentional, and I think just being understanding that we're still one, the oneness of who we are going to be core skills versus someone who is very, very gifted in a technical skill, but really lost when it comes to being a fellow human being. So I like to think that we still have that. So
That was a lot of human skills actually. What I've just heard, actually. So what Wilfrid has shared just now was not just about understanding the underlying technology,
Yeah.
but also like using what currently have, like for example, communication, right? Speaking to large language models is like speaking to another person. How much context we provided, how we frame the question, and then we also heard about curiosity as
Yeah.
one of the key traits. Curiosity, empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that, we can move on to another question. This question is from Hong Man. And this question for all of us, around 140,000 IT professionals were recently displaced by self-maintaining AI systems. And industry leaders are prioritizing prompt engineering over coding skills. How do you envision the future role of software engineers, and what skills will be crucial for their survival in this AI-driven landscape?
Very weighted question. How do I envision the future role of software engineers? I think in the very imminent future, they will still be relevant. I mean, there's a lot of tech that is, we're clearly at the beginning of a whole different tech age. So I think software engineers who are adept, flexible, and kind of like attuned to the newness of the tech would still be fine. There will always be, I think, a space for that. Software engineers with good thinking skills, good problem solving skills, good troubleshooting skills. In where we come from, the software engineers that are able to understand the human problems are the ones that do very well, that manage our clients really well. So that's always a big plus. So what skills will be crucial for their survival? I feel like a broken record. I think the human skills, communication skills, the empathy skills, not just in terms of like whether I care for you as a human being, but understanding problem statements, for example, for maybe the silver generation or the children, depending. So those are two things I think are very important. The third is the ability to constantly grow. I think growth is a very big value that I think we don't talk enough about. That self-motivation to just, like chase their own personal PBs. It's not about like, oh, I'm the best software engineer today in the whole group. I can, rest on my laurels. But the idea that I should grow for growing's sake, I think that's important too.
I think life is a continuous learning journey, and if you think that the future is all going to be just machines talking to machines and doing business with machines, the reality is there's this other equation, the humans, that are still going to be pervasive and around. And so if you take on a growth mindset of keep learning, trying to evolve with the times, and I think that humans have a very big part to play in the future of this world, at least.
Yeah, I agree.
Brilliant. Thank you for the questions so far. If you have any questions, do put them in the comment section below. We have more questions. One is from, okay, we have heard of AI boosting productivity in logistics for robots. For example, robots can adjust the placement of pallets to move it to the front of the warehouse so that it can reduce the time that it takes for staff to pick and pack. So how much should we worry about tech displacing jobs traditionally done by humans?
In the past, in the industrialization, when you're in factories, it started with lines of human beings putting things together. And over time, it's become more and more mechanized. And then robotics were introduced, even in chocolate factories or car factories, etc., etc. And then the world started to coagulate and become extremely globalized, right? But today you also see wars happening, fragmentation happening. So factories now have to contend with how to reverse that and become more flexible as opposed to be very rigid in robotically built lines. So recently I went to China. I went to a bus factory. So you would think buses, right, should be highly mechanized, right? So I speak to the CEO of the company and he tells me only 25% of my factory is mechanized. And it's all to do with welding big sheet metal together in a consistent welded form. But spot metal welding is still done by humans, and if you look at most of my lines, they are still lined by humans, so that we can mix and match the configurations. We can make a double decker, a single decker, 30 seats, 20 seats, 2 wheels, 6 wheels, and that flexibility in today's world, I think, is much more prized than a hard line pushing out millions of widgets every second. So if you ask me, I think traditional jobs in the manufacturing line will evolve. Workers still need to pick up different skills, but to think that every single human being will be displaced by robots, I think it's a little bit of a fallacy. As long as the humans don't stop learning, we're fine.
Yeah, I agree. Everything he said.
Brilliant. Okay, we have some more questions. Another one from Ginny. Oh, this is one for me. Okay. Ironically, we live in the technology and AI world now. Do the children have the chance to learn human skills and practice it? They are mostly keyboard warriors now and have little human interaction. Okay, let me think about this.
So do you feel that as a young person do you think you have space to be a non-keyboard type of person?
What is a non-keyboard type of person like? Because I'm always on my keyboard, but I'm also always not on my keyboard.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that you get a nice mix then.
I'll be asking about like social life versus.
So to give you an example,
Yeah.
My wife is the power parenter in the equation here, right? She makes sure that my children have a very well-rounded experience insofar as the week is concerned. So son plays rugby. Daughter goes for piano lessons, not just the rigor of all academic achievements alone, but having the ability to play in a competitive sport with other human beings, learning to pick each other up, learning to control his own temperament, learning all the other skills that the school doesn't teach you if you don't partake in sports. I think it's important.
So do you feel like you have a very tech life, or do you feel like you have a balance of both?
I think I have a balance of both. I'll be honest. I think I have a balance of both. I think it's also come from like the things that I've done, which led to certain things. Like it all builds up, right? It all accumulates, and it was also about exploring in the first place. I used to sit in front of my computer really 24/7, really in 24/7. I play computer games. I play Minecraft. Yeah, Minecraft's great. Yeah, I've been playing Minecraft since like 10 years, and it took me starting Cordy to actually become not so much of an introvert. When building Cordy, so it's circuit breaker, and what happened was that everything that was physical became online.
Yeah.
And so that's all the more I can't go out, more the more I should use the computer, more the more I should play computer games, right? But it was because of that I got sick of computer games also. And I was like, what more is there that can I do? And I realized that because every single thing that used to be physical were online now. So things like volunteering were online, competitions were online, conferences were online, and because of the accessibility of online events is that they tend to be free as well. So I could be during circuit breaker, I could be in home, but at the same time could be attending a conference in the UK. So there was this like open research conference I took part in. I didn't even know what scientific research was on, but I saw it and I was like, you know what? Let me just sign up. And it was because of these things that I started having a little bit more of a adventurous mindset. I started taking part in hackathons. I started taking part in virtual competitions where I actually met students from all around the world actually. So not just within Singapore, I managed to talk to people from all the way from the UAE, from Dubai, all the way to Australia. And it got me to, even though I'm in front of a computer, I think my social interactions, I was still developing certain human skills.
I'm a big believer that kids should be outdoors.
Yeah.
I always say I'm solar powered, right? I need to be if I don't see the sun, I feel like I cannot function. So I feel that helps my kid to not always be on the laptop or on the phone. I'll be honest, I have to check myself. Like at the dinner table, sometimes I feel like, hey, mommy really needs to work, and then the phone is there and I'm working. Small things that we try and keep like devices out of the way, in order to balance this keyboard life.
For us, it's 40 minutes. Screen time, no matter what kind of screens, every day the kids get 40 minutes and that's it, maximum. And to be honest, implementing this rule, we didn't have to implement it. It was never 40 minutes. It was even less. And the kids would ask us if they can go out and cycle, they can swim, and I think we're better for it.
I'm just glad my kids are not allowed phones in their schools. I'll be upfront.
Okay, we have another question. What do parents and children tend to misunderstand about tech-related fields of work? If you could set it straight, what would you want them to know?
I would like them to know that I think even in a tech field, there's still a very big human part to play. So don't give up on that. Don't invest in building compassion over a coding skill any day. They can pick that up when they're older. Yeah.
Agreed.
Brilliant. Agreed as well. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is the last question we have for this segment. We can move on. And the next segment is okay. So we have discussed about the role of technology in today's world, in studies, in work, but we haven't discussed enough on how parents or how you can play an active role in supporting the children's discovery of honing of these strengths and interests. If you have any questions also on this matter, do put them in the comment section below as well. And before we transit fully to this next segment, let's also look at the results of our second online poll. We had earlier put this statement forward: I am confident in supporting my child if he or she is interested in a career in tech-related fields. You could agree, you could disagree, or you could put a maybe. Well, let's look at the results. 61% of you feel confident in supporting your child's interests in tech-related fields, and 6% of you do not feel confident. That is really interesting. Well, let's bring it back to the panelists. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think with the advent of technology, Google and everything else, answers are arrive, information is democratized. So if any parent who is not technologically savvy, like myself, I would probably be able to find answers to those starter questions from my very young children. I would not proclaim to know everything, but I think those starter questions can already set them on the journey, and we can always find the resources, the people and the tools to help them learn more and grow deeper if they're interested, no?
I mean, Wilfrid and I come from the analog to digital kind of generation, and I think one of the things, I'm guessing a lot of the parents who are joining us today might be from that space too, if their kids are around the same age as ours, is that one, I think we have this sense of adventure, it's like never mind, like we try, but also two, I think I'm quite ready to admit that my kids know a lot more about tech than I do anyway. So it's okay if I know a bit less. I feel confident because I think, like Wilfrid said, I'm happy to discover together anyway, adventure together anyway, to ask questions, to have my kids show me the latest, coolest thing that happens and tell me about new trends and whatever is the latest thing. And I think that openness of conversation helps me to feel more confident, not because I know more, but because I have access to them and I'm part of this journey with them, that makes me feel a little bit more confident. For me, that's how it is anyway.
Nice. So the confidence doesn't fully come from knowing tech-related skills, but in fact, it could fully come from having the confidence in supporting the child emotionally and being there, and being present for them. After all, I think tech is moving very fast. Personally, I don't expect my parents to keep up with that.
My kids far outstrip me. We did a typing test. There's this website you can type a quick brown fox, whatever. I was like the slowest of the four of us. My husband and my two elder sons were far better than me. I was like, how is it, right? I mean, I've been typing for so long. So I think they have a tech dexterity that I don't have. And I'm glad they're okay that I'm coming along for the ride, actually.
But if parents are asking this question, also don't downplay your own ability to learn. We came from an era where information was shared on transparencies on an overhead projector. There was no mobile phone, there was none of that, It was written memos and fax machines, And today, do I have a mobile phone? I do. Do I know how to email? I do, and so do you.
Yeah.
We know how to use PowerPoint. There's ChatGPT. We know how to use that. So I think parents have be encouraged that we all can learn and pick up things it's just one step at a time, one day at a time, and everything's possible.
Brilliant. Okay. With that, let's go to some of the live questions. We have a question from Grace Liu. For all of us, how do you guide your children to use but not abuse AI? What tips do you have when they are easily distracted by gadgets and have access to quick answers?
One of the benefits I feel our generation has, I say our generation versus yours, is that we had to do research the hard way. Like really think of the question we want, go to the library, search it up, and then go and kind of like look for the books and then kind of like look for the research. Then came kind of like Wikipedia, right? Where it was like a lot of the information is online, and we had to think about like what's real, how do we fact check, things like that. So I think what that really gave me was an appreciation on how to ask good questions. And to do that, I had to understand perhaps all the different players, stakeholders. So I feel like how do I guide my children to use but not abuse it is one kind of to understand it. We try not to shy away on all the things about AI, like, what deepfakes are like, how is it being used. So we kind of are open about that discussion as far as we can. I'm really grateful that in their schools, they really focus a lot on like asking good questions. How do we discern? How do we have better conversations about certain things, so kind of unpacking skills that are outside of the AI, outside of like a ChatGPT format. And then ChatGPT is purely kind of like an area where they gather information. So how I use them is, I use it too. So sometimes I check their work. And like my son writes a piece, I tell him, I said, you can use ChatGPT to get a listicle of things like points that you want, but learn to write it yourself, because the cadence in writing, how do we write with clarity, has to come from you. And sometimes I think maybe they get mad at me because I force them to do it the old school way, but investing time in that has been valuable in how they are. In the car with them, I'm really, really grateful. They like to chat with me in the car, so we talk about world affairs. And so, maybe also my first data training, I started like, what do you think about that? And at that point in time, they can't search up an answer, right? And I said, I don't care if your answer is the most perfect. I just want you to just talk it through. So we practice that. It's very intentional. We do find opportunities to look at that. So every time there's a big thing in the news, general elections, Trump, we have a dinner conversation about it. My 8-year-old joins in. We try and simplify it for him. We explain how the price hikes, with things that he understands, things he wants to buy, sweets, whatever. And then he's like, but it's very unfair. And I'm like, yeah, it's unfair. Why is it unfair? So we try and have conversation, but it also means we need to be willing to have that conversation. And it's not always easy, because it's easier to just sometimes just let dinner pass by. So we have to catch these moments. For me, we catch these moments with our kids. It's not always easy, but I'm glad my husband is on this and we have that. Yeah.
I have to agree. I think parents being present in that moment of time and having those conversations and asking the why, and how did you do it, will uncover whether the answers given to you, the work that was done, was actually genuine, well thought through, and not just a byproduct of an answer that they got online. But also, come to think about it. I'm really glad that the teaching profession is still manned by humans.
Yeah.
I'm still glad that there are teachers in school speaking to students in class every single day, and all the students do not have a laptop in front of them. They have still got to write their names on the top right-hand corner of the papers, still take down notes, and I'm glad for that, because I am a parent that's genuinely worried about whether my child is just spitting me answers from a chatbot or an AI tool and not really being able to think through those solutions themselves,
And one of the other questions that they asked was like, how do we then help them, right? So to not get distracted. This is really kind of like personal, family to family, but my husband and I had maybe because we are tech people in the tech field, we had this discussion where at what age do we give our kids tech, right? Because some people are like, they must be 16 before they get tech, or 15, or whatever the age is. For our school of thought is we wanted them to be exposed young, because when they are young, we can control. Like I can tell you 40 minutes, I can turn off the internet, right? They're still within my ambit of parenting. If I were to give them their first forays of a phone at like 15 or 16, they may not have had the years of training that they have now on like putting it aside. So like, for example, the rule is their phones, the passwords I still have access to, but also it all sleeps in mommy's study. Like all the phones come and it's docked. So every night I kind of know what time they go to bed because the phone comes in usually about 10 o'clock, the phones are there. And people are like, oh, you mean your kids don't get to keep the phones? And to be fair, clearly they're getting messages at night because I hear it beeping, and so clearly they have friends who have their phones all through the night. And I asked them before, I said, do you ever feel like you miss out? And they're like, actually, it's fine. Because they're used to that rigor. So they get their phones for a good period of the day. They go to school with it for my older kids. And then when they come back, they have them. Dinner is still a phone-free zone. And then they park it. But it's also kind of like a routine and a discipline that we have had time to build up over the years. And I feel like having that period of time to inculcate that, have that conversation over the years versus doing it at 15 or 16 is far better. I know you have rules with your kids. And it's hard lah. It's hard. Sometimes the small steps really matter.
And we can't prescribe the solution for every family. I guess it depends on how old your child is, how mature they are, and being able to control their usage of digital devices. I bought my daughter a dumb phone, not a smart one. I bought a Nokia, some old one with a SIM card so that she can call, but not spend the whole day WhatsApping friends and all, But I guess that will have to evolve over time because denying them technology also means that they don't have the skills to be able to partake, So it's a tough balance.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, for me, I actually also had only 1 hour to play games on the computer every single week. That was like when I was in secondary, so maybe like 5-6 years ago. But there's one thing that my parents allowed me to do, which is they allowed me to do work on the computer for as long as it takes. So I would take an excuse, right? So I'm not playing games. I am doing research. I'm studying, and I would browse online. I would go and absorb knowledge on this certain things just so I can use the computer more. But maybe that has led to some good things out of that as well. We don't know. And I think on the first part as well, how do you guide children not to use how to use and not to abuse AI? We talked about asking why, right? It's easy to get an answer from ChatGPT or Claude, but it's important we continuously train that thinking that comes behind it. And I think I'd like to add on to that. It's also not just about asking good questions or knowing what questions to ask, but also having good taste. Like being able to evaluate what a good answer looks like. I think that's very important. We can ask as many good questions as we want, but how do we know that it's a good answer? I think that's something that we continuously, I think is very important.
I think it was New Jersey, that made it kind of like a mandatory thing for all students to learn inquiry and as part of their school curriculum. And I think that's a wonderful take. I think in schools today, they still focus on that, teaching kids how to dig deeper, ask better questions, what other things. So I think we're not far from doing that. I think, hopefully at home, we're also kind of, motivated to do that. One of the things I would say also is, I know my kids are watching me of how I use AI. If I use it all the time and I'm just taking wholesale, then they're also gonna know. And I guess it's a two-way street, right? We keep an eye on them, but they're also keeping an eye on us. And I think for me, that keeps me more mindful. Keeps me more mindful in how I also use technology, not just AI, in terms of what they in the space with them as well.
Brilliant. Yeah. We have a question from Laura. How can we achieve a balance in reaching children that human touch is just as important as AI learning? And we have a comment as well from Lim-Tseng. I play Roblox with my kids. I feel that they have to learn tech and education faster than our time. So important for us to learn alongside them to support them as well.
I agree.
I think if you look at these two questions, it's about the parent being present in that moment with the child and being beside the child and enjoying a moment together, whether it's Roblox, whether it's chess, whether it's whatever. I think the key is we live in a very fragmented world now. Everybody's really distracted all the time. Most of us are on the phone all the time. You can see people crossing the road and looking at the phone. But if you're a child, actually what do you really want is time with mommy and daddy. When mommy and daddy really listen to their stories, what's going on every single day, And if that's the anchor to which a child then craves for those moments together, then be it Roblox, technology, whatever else, you can learn together, right?
They did a study and they said that parents who have at least one meal with the kid, their math scores increase. So I think for me it was a really good kind of, I mean, not that it is about the eating and the math, but I think really what they found is investing in spending time with our kids. I know it's hard for some families. Investing time in doing that have just, I guess maybe it's psychological safety. They feel like they can, and maybe it helps them to have that self-esteem, that surety. Because, I mean, if you think about it, right? I mean, if you feel secure that you can have a conversation or ask, then you can try new things. Perhaps that's really the link. But I was really encouraged because I'm like, then you know that fighting, I mean, one of the things my husband and I had to discuss and kind of decide is, do we both push on in our careers and what does that look like? Do we then cut back on maybe our own social life? So like my husband's is, I mean, in terms of parenting, I mean, we have a fairly 50-50 in that sense. He's more of the sports dad and I handle a lot of education stuff. And he's there with the kids, right? It means he sleeps a bit later, he wakes up a bit earlier. It means he has to work his meetings around certain things. It also means that you have to, be checking for all the parents' update, watching game tapes. My son's, one of them is a basketballer. And I like to believe that his being there and my being there when it comes to studies pays off, not so much that they do well in school or in sports, but that they still want to talk to us, they still kind of want to hang out. So I take that as us kind of being on the right track to a certain degree. One of the best parenting advice came from an old church friend, Mama Helen, if you ever find a way to watch this. She said, when I had my first kid, don't parent the child you want, parent the child you have. And I didn't really understand it as a very young mom, but kind of as they grow up and they have their own personalities, my three kids are all very different. It's really important to kind of meet them where they are, because then they also feel like I'm not engaging this version of them that I want, that I'm just mom. I'm not here to judge you if you didn't get an A, in that sense.
So YouTube and AI will be your child's parent only if you let it lah.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think invariably, I mean, I like watching YouTube too, but I think I've actually gone back to books. I used to read on Libby because it saved me a lot of money. I was buying a lot of books. I've actually gone back to books because every time I read on my phone, I get distracted by a thing. And then I feel like I found it really hard to just finish a book. It took me a really long time, but going back was really peaceful, like my brain could think again. So I think it's not just the kids, it's parents too. I mean, if we can't finish watching a show without, looking at 5 other things, then maybe we're also the ones that need to retrain ourselves. So how do we achieve that? I think we have to kind of be self-aware too. I'm not great all the time, but I think that realization, for example, going back to books was it helped my soul to breathe. I don't know how to explain it. That was like my brain could just sit there and do this not tech thing for a long period of time. Tech detox is always great too.
Awesome. Okay, we have another question from Amari Futatsu. This question is for me. Oh, wonderful. What do you think about this Gen Alpha's lingo, and how does this impact our children's learning of language and their ability to wield it well? Okay, I'm actually Gen Z, but I do know what Gen Alpha lingo sounds like, and I do sometimes use it as well. Would it affect our learning of language? Wow, I think it's a little bit tough, for me to come up with an answer for that.
I think every gen has its own lingo, no? In its own way.
I guess, but the current one's quite drastically difficult for me to grasp. Yeah.
This is I think it's the speed of communication is there, right? So something that comes up all the way in the other side of the world, the trend catches on fast, and that's why it's even faster than before, I suppose.
I'm grateful for school teachers that my son recently had to they have multiple videos that they have to produce, and they have to their presentations every other day, and I'm really grateful that the marking rubric still forces them to kind of know. I think the answer to that is how can our kids code switch? I mean, for sure, maybe in our generation it may sound a bit different, I mean, clearly, if I'm meeting people in the boardroom, I'm meeting clients, I have to speak kind of like how I am, right? But I mean, really, if I wanted to meet Wilfrid for a coffee, I can be a bit more casual, I can throw in Hokkien, whatever it is. And I can be a bit more champo in how we speak. So I think being able to code switch is important. Having Gen Alpha understand that you can have your own language, which I think is really, really great, and I think it's a thing for its time, but being able to still know perhaps how to change up how you speak if you're speaking to different generations. I mean, do you see that at work?
I think it's about being relevant and being able to carry the point across. I can't answer this question because I don't know the lingo at all, but I would have to defer that to Cherie's answer. I think being honest in answering questions and being relevant is still going to be the same rules of the game.
I mean, I'll be honest, when I speak to younger people and because I sometimes go into the schools as a like an educator persona, right? So, but they're generally quite good at speaking to me. Even my son, my youngest one is definitely a Gen Alpha. They're still quite polite, so they still know. So I have hope that our Gen Alphas know how to code switch.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Code switch. Okay,
Yeah,
code switch
code
is
switch.
the key secret ingredient here. Well, thanks for all the questions and your active participation. We tried to answer as many questions as we could, and we hope that some of these answers to your questions have offered some level of insight. As we approach the end of our session, maybe let's invite Wilfrid and Cherie to share some last thoughts on the role of parents in supporting children's strengths and interests, especially in today's tech industry.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a summary of all we talked about, but the key points are, in a fragmented world, be present, be supportive, don't underestimate the human characteristics that are going to be even more important in going further with the deployment of technology, and not just fascinate on the technology itself. The technology is like what it always was, a door opener to a conversation into an organization, but the people skills are what's going to make it work.
I will say that one of my favorite lines is, when there is uncertainty, there is adventure. And I think kind of carry that spirit of just try, explore, be a safe space for your kids in exploring with them, so they know they're not in this alone. I think that's a great way. They always have their friends anyway, which is a great thing, but I think it'd be so much more fun for them, and it's so much more rounded if they have their parents as well. I think there are many opportunities for us to explore and grow and adventure with our kids, to show them that we don't know everything, and that we can still kind of like be in this together. So spend time. I think the core things of investing in time, engaging with them. Don't shy from the hard questions. I guess for me also, it's examining my own life. I know while you're talking, I was like, how much iPad time or how much phone time do I actually show in front of my kids? And I think being able to just be honest with ourselves too, on what kind of conversations we want to have with our kids about these things that matter are big things for us to think about.
Brilliant. Thank you so much to both of you. And we hope that today's session has helped you better understand and appreciate the value of both tech and human skills in a tech-driven age. And perhaps our conversations today have broadened your definitions of success, and this can help you better support your children's unique strengths and interests. Well, we have to say this, MOE cannot do this alone. Your partnerships with parents, community, industry, friends are essential. To bring out the best in every child, this is what we have to do. Together, let's prepare our children for a world beyond school. On that note, we would like to direct your attention to the resources in the comments section below to support you in guiding your children. If there are more topics you would like to hear from industry leaders, comment more or type in the topics you are interested in. Let's see parenting as a journey of growth where we seek progress instead of perfection. With that, thank you so much for spending your night with us. See you at our next Facebook Live session. Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.